The story begins with the fact that some person reflects on the fact that even after 10 years, he does not understand why he was not so far away. He wondered if the fantasy world wasn't an outlet for introverts and other social outcasts. After all, in Manhwa and Ranobe, is this what happens? In front of him, if it wasn't Manhwa or Ranobe, it was gray in his eyes. He grew up on the ground. An ordinary otaku who was content to read manhwa and watch anime, he thought only about why this was happening to him. Why his fate had developed in such a way that he did not come out with his face, did not get into an influential family. From the realization of this, we can see him sitting among people who are lying either unconscious or dead or pretending. He was silent among all these bodies, squatting to the lying body. He said that as long as they were alive, they talked so much, but still it was their fate. He was quite arrogant in this scene. He thought about that it was finally the devil's turn, and it was time to end him as soon as possible. He wanted to kill the devil. He was very strong, or incredibly self-confident. This world is truly ruled by the strongest. This is a real utopia for barbarians, and according to him, he is the chosen hero who administers justice, who will save all mankind. But he believes that now he will be called the legendary hero who saved humanity from the devil. He kicked this frightening door off his foot. With a very confident and convincing look, he came to the devil himself, who was sitting on his throne at that time. Behind him was a huge skull with glowing red eyes, and steps from the bones of this skull led to him. He thought he would get eternal glory as the legendary hero who saved humanity from the devil. The devil, in turn, was waiting for him, and said that at last he had reached here. The chosen hero, the hero himself, at ease, with the most calm look, asked him if he was the devil. It was clear that he absolutely did not volute and was ready for any battle. He explained that, of course, he was at the top of the entire hierarchy of demons, the lord of the darkness of this world. He looked very frightening and strong. He called himself the Devil Petinar. He looked like a real supreme demon, and clenching his fist he was already ready for battle. His fierce red eyes showed his eternal anger. The hero took out the blade and said that apparently it would be an entertaining performance. All these 10 years he fought with boring fakes, and could not fight in full force, and also the devil was his ticket to Earth. Apparently this meant that the inhabitants summoned the great hero into their world because they wanted to defeat the devil. He laughed at the hero, and said that he liked his sparkle in his eyes, and the desire to defeat the most powerful demon of this world, before whom everyone trembled in fear. The devil began to conjure, but the hero asked him to stop for a minute, and said that before they started fighting, he wanted to ask the devil something. The hero asked about that why the devil just sat back and watched his servants die. So also for 10 years, he believed that such behavior was wrong even for soulless demons. The devil, in turn, threw a very disgruntled look at the hero, as if he was ready to kill him right now. Apparently he asked a question that was not worth asking. Watched? It's a shame, you know, the devil replied, and reported that all this time he sent the strongest servants to the hero to take revenge on him. The devil also turned out to be with emotions and did not intentionally want death to his comrades. Hero, he said that he killed all of them, even the strongest warriors of the devil. The devil was already nervous, sharply replied that therefore he sent even stronger ones, who he thought could cope with the hero, but he also killed them. The devil was incredibly angry and said that he was brave, and didn't he think that he was just lucky? Because of the hero's question, the devil was already glad. His joy of battle was replaced by anger and sadness due to the fact that he killed all his comrades. The hero began to tease the devil, asking if he thinks that if he had come out to fight him from the very beginning, he would not have gotten here. The hero was as confident as possible in himself and his abilities, since he had the courage to dare and tease the devil himself. The hero began to talk about the fact that during these 10 years he lost many servants, and even his advantage, isn't it? He was only getting stronger in the meantime, and that the devil was his best sponsor and opponents for him. The devil began to shout about what a meaningless assumption it was. The hero tried to say that it was not meaningless, but the devil interrupted him, did not want to listen, and began to talk about how he knew the politics of demons. He was tormented by thoughts of whether he was a good leader and whether he was doing the right thing. All these thoughts clogged his head. Since he could not give himself an answer to this question, the hero, thinking to himself, said that the devil did not understand his words. But the hero decided that he would get out of this wild world at all costs. So he jumped sharply towards the devil to finish him off, because he was his only chance to return to his world. And he had to do it, no matter what. The devil himself also rushed into battle with incredible anger at the hero for killing all his subordinates and humiliating himself. And this act seemed unforgivable in relation to the devil, whom no one had ever humiliated so much. The hero decided for himself that he would return to his quiet life otaku. In any way, the devil began to conjure the trick that he had done before, and the hero, despite this, flew straight at him, headlong, because he could only win from the collision of such great power. The place where they were scattered shattered and cut in half. It was a rather effective and eye-catching sight, because it is not every day that you see the battle of the great summoned hero and the devil himself. We see that the devil is driven into the wall from the blow of the hero, and he himself says that he said that he did not need dirty tricks, and he told the pure truth that he suffered throughout all these 10 years, and every day he dreamed of returning to his world. The devil only called him a brave man, and at the same time he was bleeding from his mouth, from the strong blow of the hero. It was hard to believe that he was so strong, and then he said something that could hurt the hero, that his strength rises from anger for the lost comrades he lost to the devil. It was evident that the hero was greatly hurt, and he resolutely said no, gritting his teeth with anger. That the devil dares to say such things. He said that his strength was the result of preparation of the power before which the devil himself would fall, and he could be sure of his strength. That's how the devil, the head of all demons, began to speak, gradually disintegrating into parts, and laughing at how simple everything is, and he was defeated. Anyway, it was a wonderful duel, he said, stammering a little, because he could no longer speak, and he would soon disappear from the world. The devil was finally lying on the ground, without the opportunity to move. And the hero does not understand how everything can be so simple. And, is this the end? The hero asked in surprise, and the SS incomprehensibly ordered the devil to fight properly. But the devil no longer heard him. The hero was dumbfounded. The hero began to laugh maniacally, from how simple everything turned out to be, and from the fact that he realized that he had completed the task and should return home soon. He started shouting to the deities of the fantasy world that, as agreed, he destroyed the devil. Now please send me to Earth. He cried with happiness and thought that he was sorry for the time he had spent on all this. But now that he returns to Earth, he will completely change his life. But most importantly, it turned out that he killed all his comrades, and the gods asked him what the hell. He was sweating with fear, because it was hard for him to answer. The swordswoman, who had honed her sword skills for a long time, putting a lot of strength into it, was dead. The fairy queen who ruled over all the fairies, she was revered by many people and magical creatures, and she was strong. But she was also dead. The sage next to her too, the king of mercenaries, who ruled all the mercenaries, and was revered among them most of all, was also dead like everyone else. The hero sweated, and began to speak hesitantly about the fact that he, before killing the devil Petinar, he paused for a moment before continuing, and said that he considered his comrades an obstacle on the way to the goal. So he suddenly attacked them and killed all his comrades, thanks to heroic strength. The gods said that they were innocent, but he began to get angry and say that all these 10 years they belittled him, and there was no end to this injustice. They interfered in all his private affairs, and under the guise of training, they mocked him and disregarded human rights. although they did not hold him for a man, and this crazy woman, by her own negligence, came out in what her mother gave birth. So then she also began to swing a sword, although he was not to blame. The hero believed that it was just retribution, but the goddess told him that he had failed the test, that with such power he should be aware of responsibility, and his character does not correspond to his strength. So in the name of order and peace, they return him to the first day of the test. The hero himself tried to somehow challenge this but could not. He asked that he would have to hang out in this landfill again, where there is not even a toilet with a drain. And you have to start all over again? And again meet the comrades he killed? From this thought alone, he already had goosebumps. But he no longer had a choice, and he went back in time. He evaporated, and only his belongings remained, in the form of a cloak, a sword, and armor, because when moving into the past, he must start all over again. While he was being transported back in time, the voice of the gods told him that their administration wished him further success and victory, and that an instructor had been assigned to him. Retake, Day 1, the hero was given the status of an amateur hero. And he found himself in the place where he was first called into this world, and he sat in the circle around which they stood. He was very dumbfounded by everything that was happening. He still could not believe that he had killed the devil, but he was returned to live again these 10 years of suffering because of his mistake. At school, students sat and talked about how nice it would be to quit school and get into the fantasy world, and the girls looked at them as crazy. One of them said that he would like to save a beautiful princess from the clutches of the demon king and marry her. The other asked, just one? He would go on a trip with a few beauties. Another said, adventure? What kind of boredom? But the history of science did not teach you anything. After all, you can invent nuclear weapons and take over the whole world. Another began to say that how could someone with only 30 points in all technical subjects invent it? If it's fantasy, then it's better to use magic, which will destroy anything with one blow. Another said that magic is garbage, a military feat. This is the real truth of the world of knights, real warriors. And they both asked their third friend, who had been sitting and reading the book, about how he thought what was best, because before that he was silent, and he might have some thoughts. They asked him what he would like to do if he got into the fantasy world. These thoughts literally made him shine. And yes, it was our current hero as a child at school. He was silent, and thought about what his dream was. He looked at his phone screen where the toilet was, and thought about what his dream was, what he would like. 10 years later, it was his last conversation with his friends before he moved to another world. He was taken away with the help of a summon, and he never had time to answer. In that world, only his phone remained of him, and the memory of him. He did not know that he would fall so abruptly into another world, even in the middle of a conversation about it, even though this conversation was only dreams. And now he found himself among his summoners, in the guise of a schoolboy, because he was one, but already a hero in this world, called upon to kill the devil, the king of all demons. The same place as 10 years ago. There can be no mistake, moving, no kidnapping hero's magic circle. He thought about all this, because he needed to understand exactly what was happening. He compared his old hand to the current one, in a school uniform, squelched in comparison with the old, and unable to fight back, and he already understood what this must mean. He grabbed his chest and tried to find at least some of his things, and he had already begun to worry, gradually beginning to realize what exactly had happened and what was waiting for him. He realized that he had returned to the very beginning, and all his equipment, and even his muscular physique, everything was gone. Nothing remained except the memories accumulated over these 10 years. He remembered how the goddess had told him that he had failed, and realized that it was not some stupid joke, but the truth, and now he had to go through everything again, absolutely everything. 3,650 days, 87,600 hours, 10 years. As much as 10 years. He was incredibly angry at the fact that he would have to relive these 10 horrible years again. He couldn't just accept it. This is enough to get married, have children, and send them to elementary school, during which time he could graduate from school and become a university graduate. Every day he tried just to get into his world, and humbly endured the humiliation and insults of these damn partners, who constantly mocked him. A voice was heard from behind that greeted the hero. This voice seemed quite familiar to him, and he perked up sharply, and incomprehension appeared in his eyes. "Ranyabel?" he shouted in amazement. Apparently he knew this sweet girl who was not one of his evil comrades, and did not spoil his whole life. If you think about it, the first time he got there, then the first person who spoke to him was she, a friendly girl with a cute face. She asked if the hero had come to his senses, but he immediately shouted back a firm no. After all, he is not happy with everything, and he needs to think about what to do next. That's how, dear hero, she said, and he remembered that she was an archaeologist and the organizer of a series of calls that made him get there, so he didn't immediately fall in love with her. She began to tell him that she understood how he was feeling now, was confused because he had been called so unexpectedly, but she asked him to pull himself together. This is a fantasy, a world different from the one in which the hero grew up. There are castles, magic, demons, summons, and much more that was not in his world, although he already knew it. We see that the window behind which it is now located was at the very height of the entire castle, not taking into account the towers on the sides, on which the flags of this state are placed. He made a serious appearance, and wanted to sum up, since he already knew the future. 1. The demon Lord Petinar had awakened. 2. Humanity was on the verge of a crisis. A big catastrophe was approaching. 3. That's why we called you, dear hero. 4. Please save us. Is that what you wanted to say? The hero asked her. She was surprised that he knew her words in advance, and she said that it was impressive that he had completed her speech perfectly, and he knew that it could not be otherwise. He had already gone through all this, remembered all the moments from the past. He's already flunked that damn Petinar, and got to the epilogue. Then the girl remembers that she completely forgot to introduce herself to the hero. She did not know that he already knew her name. She said that her name was Runable. During one expedition to search for ancient legends, she received a prophecy, and therefore called it. From the language of ancient runes, Runable translates as truth. Now, 10 years later, he can see right through her. Then he was only a teenager, so he lost his head from her appearance, but now he can control himself. He told her not to smile, and that hit him off. She didn't understand what he was talking about. He told her not to pretend to be nice. She was surprised that he said words like her. But he began to explain that she pulled a calmly living person out of his usual environment, and now he also asks for help, as if she was just having fun playing with his life. Do you really want to smile at the sight of my face? The hero asked confidently, because he saw through this girl, knowing what she was like in the past, and would not allow the past to repeat itself. He told her not to scatter words about the truth, even if he could not justify his name. She immediately began to apologize to him, and he was glad of it, because it was what he wanted. A guard came who told the hero that the king was waiting for him, since he had to tell him everything in detail about the task and about this world, because this hero was summoned by his will. He said with a maniacal look that he couldn't wait. In these scenes he looked not like a hero, but like a real villain, who was going to take over the whole world. The guard and the girl were shocked, because of the lack of understanding of what he was talking about. Well, they did not begin to relive these 10 years again, and for them it was the first time, and it seemed very strange. He asked with a casual look about what they were surprised at. They replied uncertain. Well, he behaved boorishly, but it was understandable, because he decisively began to change this fate, told them to think carefully. How many heroes in this world can challenge the devil? The guardian replied that he was the only one. While feeling very insecure, with a haughty look, He said that that's it. There is only one hero. There is no one else. And without him, this world will come to an end because no one can protect him. Did you understand it now? He asked them, and they trembled in fear. Not understanding, they summoned a hero or a new villain who would be stronger than the devil and would bring even more trouble than he did. He said that if the king wanted to see him, then let them tell him not to lead him out of himself and go to him faster. He was really incredibly self-confident. He also added that if they had any objections, then catch your demon lord yourself. But they understood that they had no chance against the demon lord, so they were afraid. What are you worth? My time is precious, he said arrogantly. The guard quickly replied that he would now pass it on to him and come back, because they had no choice, and the hero took advantage of it. He began to haughtily think, well, how do you like it, huh? How do you like such an amazing statement, I suppose, speechless. He was really proud of himself, thinking that such behavior is characteristic of a hero. And then, out of nowhere, he hears a voice saying that he should calm down. This voice continued, there is an old proverb, no one will bow his head before a hidden treasure, those who lean will rise, while those who towered will fall down. Gratitude and modesty, these are the simple qualities that a hero should have. He already understood that this was not good. He tried to understand what it was, and realized that the situation had somehow changed. And then he thought, and fell into a complete stupor, because he had not met this woman last time, and to some extent he was even scared. Immediately he asked who she was, because he himself could not remember, because he did not know her. But he needed to find out who she was, and where he was, because he simply had no other choice. She, in turn, said that she was a professor. It was a beautiful girl in a mask, with long and lush hair, and a beautiful smile. But she was not simple. She had a secret. She was referred to the hero, as he received an unsatisfactory grade for behavior, and she will try to do everything possible so that he can become a truly worthy hero. It even has a special classification. The hero himself was just shattered after learning all this. All the plans that he had already managed to build literally collapsed in a couple of seconds. It was very sad for him. She began to tell that the heroes who successfully passed the exam did not even know about the existence of professors. So it is not surprising that he is so dumbfounded. Even if he fails, they take the exam themselves. Cases of instructor intervention are so rare that they can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The hero claimed that one of them touched him, and realized that she was sent into this world to interfere in his affairs. And not only will you have to go through everything again, but they also put surveillance on him. And it turns out that he was shackled hand and foot, without options to somehow leave observation. And he will have to live honestly and normally. It was clear from him that he did not like such a fate very much. Even angered him. He hated this whole world even more, all gods, people, creatures, and his only desire was to return to his home, to his former life. But why? Whatever one may say, I heroically defeated the demon lord. I perfectly fulfilled my destiny, he said, and he did not overestimate his merits. He really did a lot of things for this world. But the professor replied that this was the problem. Now the hero had completely lost the train of thought of the professor and the gods. He did not know what to think about, and what she meant. He could only do what he was told. She said that they were constantly making the same mistakes, and they had to be defeated in the battle with the demon king. He had to be stronger than them, and not let them win. However, they easily defeated him. Without even making much effort, the hero himself defeated him alone. Either the devil was too weak, or the hero turned out to be so strong that it was not a hindrance for him. As they say, failure begets success. But they also could not analyze their post-up, because they did not know the taste of defeat. There was some meaning in these words. But the truth is, why taste the taste of defeat if you are invincible? Yes, so that's it. The hero furrowed his eyebrows and thought what else to answer all this. And what else can you ask her? And also how you can use it for your own purposes. Because he is still a manipulator, he asked why she had come to grumble, because he hadn't thought about his actions, had he? The professor replied that everything was correct. She came for just such a purpose. She was sent by the gods themselves. Correct and good people are like water. They never argue, and bring polha to all things. They are always looking for a solution and not looking for someone to blame. They do everything in justice and honor, and not as our hero did. So she expects the hero to become an endless sea for his comrades. So this is where her theory ends, and practice begins. Tomorrow she will come. At the same time, work hard, hero. The hero was indignant, and did not know what to do next, because the task of how to get out of this world became harder and more confusing. He thought about maybe it would be easier to deal with this devil, but his comrades, his head hurts from them. While he flew in illusions and twisted his body in a strange way in reality, the girl who called him noticed this and began to ask if he was not bad. Why he grabbed his head so sharply. She began to tell us that the magic of transference is not yet been fully investigated, and they do not know if any unknown side effects will manifest themselves. If something is wrong, then be sure to let us know. The girl persistently asked. He understood that even if he told her about everything now, or anyone at all, it would still not become easier, except that he could be mistaken for abnormal, or begin to trust less. Teaching staff? Is it something like a group of professors who educate the hero so that he becomes normal by their standards, and corresponds to his strength even in character and behavior? This is when a student is locked up in a school or course and forced to study all day, taking away the phone and the rest of the student's belongings, and the student must literally die from so much work and information. Kidnap people from the ordinary world, call them heroes, and try to educate them as the gods want. They idealize heroes and try to make them perfect, because the hero is a henchman of God, protecting people. He doesn't know the goals of this organization, but they clearly don't feel hostility towards him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be standing here now. They easily brought him back to the past after he defeated the Demon King. If they are dissatisfied with him, then they can kill without difficulty. He has no other way to survive than to please them and completely obey. So for now, he decided to cooperate with them, although he was not eager to do so. But he would cooperate with them until he had a backup plan. He smirked at the thought that he was a genius who had come up with something clever, when in fact he didn't have any ideas right now. But it's useless to be angry with her and blame her for all the troubles. One way or another, our relationship is the same now as it was in the first round. But if you think about it, she didn't know that she would harm him by calling him into this world. Lenouvel, take me to the king. Yes, she replied, and the hero pretended to be depressed because he had to be good a second time, in his second attempt in this world. First of all, this is a struggle for the influence of the king. He is not a citizen of their kingdom, and is not obliged to obey kidnappers like them. Interworld kidnappers. Sounds ridiculous, but in fact infuriates. The hero decided that he would work for his just human rights. If he died, he would not be able to return to Earth. So it remains only to find mutual understanding with this incompetent king who only gives orders from the throne. Dear hero, please be picky and courteous in your words in front of His Majesty, said the guardian, because he will not tolerate a boorish attitude towards himself even from the only hero who is able to save the world. The guardian looked at the hero as if he was not courteous to him, he himself would kill him before he became strong enough to fight back. Well, this is the work of the guard, so there is nothing to blame him for. The hero was surprised by this look, and did not understand what he was, and then he accidentally said his thoughts out loud. He was burning. Do you want to hit him? He was confident in himself for many reasons, which he further called the guard right to his face. I'm your only hope. A hero who can defeat the Demon King, right? So even if I do something wrong, will you dare? And then behind you hear some terrible voice that says, Oh hero, what courage! This man with a smile on his face approaches the hero. The hero himself understands that this voice is familiar to him, and tries to remember who it is, and he began to guess, but he thought at least his thought was wrong. He says that he will hit him like a hero and asked, and despite the fact that he is a hero, he begins to swing his big fist at him. While looking very intimidating, this man struck with all his strength without hitting the hero. His blow was so fast that it was quite difficult to notice him with the eye of someone who had never fought before, and the hero seemed to know this man, and thought about why this person was here. He realized that he was too relaxed, thinking that he could do whatever he wanted. Now, being in this body, he cannot resist him. The girl began to shout his name, Mr. Alex, and screamed, asking him that he was going to kill their hero. It was the commander-in-chief of the kingdom, Alex, one of the strongest men in the kingdom. There were legends about him that he once beat a huge dragon with his bare hands. He laughed and said that this was just a test of courage, and justified himself by saying that the hero did not die, standing right above him like the main boss, laughing haughtily at the hero. The hero began to think that this was what he did not like most of all, that these barbarians kidnap innocent people, and then also mock them, beat them, do not put them in anything. They assign the title of hero, and they themselves use it as a toy, or a hound that can simply be thrown away. It was the most annoying thing in this whole world. But he was very determined that this time everything would be different, and began to pull out a pen that had remained in his pocket from his world, just like his uniform. He said in his thoughts to the professor that this was self-defense, and with bloodthirsty eyes, as if he wanted revenge, he was preparing to attack the victim just like a hunter on the hunt. Only if he had enough strength, he bent down. The man himself did not understand anything, and only watched the hero. The hero rushed forward, preparing to strike, because in order for everything to go well, he needs to concentrate and calculate everything. The commander-in-chief did not fully understand everything, but his military premonition said that the hero intended to do something that he would definitely not like, and he would be angry. He made an instant leap forward, with precise technique, as if he had in his hand not an ordinary school pen, but a real blade that can cut anything in its path. But he realized that it seemed that his body did not keep up with the technique, but despite this, the commander-in-chief did not have time to understand how something happened, and he did not notice it, although he is quite strong. Although the hero's body could not withstand his technique, he is a hero with 10 years of experience. So, he is confident that he can do damage, and he really did it. The commander-in-chief was furious, and called the hero a complete asshole. He disgraced the great man for the kingdom in front of the servants. His face said that he did not know what to do. The hero decided to belittle the commander-in-chief even more, saying that it was a pity, because a good eunuch would have come out of him. This angered him even more, because no one had dared to treat him like that before. The hero says that he first met him in training during the first playthrough. He was quite frightening, especially when you can't give him any rebuff, and under the pretext of practice. He constantly beat the hero like a worthless dog. It put a lot of pressure on the hero, morally, and it was hard for him to cope with it. But the desire to get out and take revenge was greater. Although he was my fencing teacher, this does not give him the right to treat him like that, because every person should have rights, and the hero has privileges in general, but everything turned out the other way around. The girl began to shout at him to immediately apologize to the hero. The commander-in-chief himself said to look at it, he too, but he was interrupted by asking, "Look at what?" But he began to smile, asking that he was going to attempt to assassinate him with such a dead physique. To the commander-in-chief, he seemed amusing. Since he was so weak and without skills, he already knew something. "Okay, stupid hero," he said, and the hero himself became even, just like a ruler, and shook with fear of this man, because he realized 100 in vain flared up, and he had no chance against him. The commander-in-chief said that if he could defeat him, and the knights of the whole kingdom, then he would kneel down and apologize to him, despite everything he had done, because the main thing in this world is strength. He said that he swears by the honor of a knight, and the hero just destroyed his honor in an instant, said that he was lying, and said that he would not apologize until he died, because he is such a person. Then he decided to tease the commander-in-chief, asking if he swears by both testicles. The commander-in-chief did not want to endure such humiliation and said, "Don't fool around. Stop asking stupid questions." The hero wondered, maybe it's not so bad, maybe it's some kind of divine revelation. A chance to relieve all the stress accumulated during the first passage, or it's just his speculation and theories. But one thing is absolutely clear, that the hero has lost all the skills acquired for the first time. But this does not make him weaker. He still has the technique and knowledge of how to achieve the same strength as before. Also, he does not know what the teaching staff is, but he does not intend to stop and give up. His goal remains the same, to get back into his world and return to normal life. He wondered if his 10-year experience had sunk into oblivion, but he realized that it was ridiculous. On his face there was confidence, motivation, and readiness to overcome many difficulties that await him on the path of the hero. Here they are on the way to the king himself, and the hero is told that His Majesty requires an audience with the hero. But the hero knew that no, he never demanded, but forced others to do what he said, and no matter what. And then the huge gates to the palace to the king himself begin to open. A lot of light comes out of there, because everything glitters there. And now the hero must go to the king and think about how he can control it. When he entered, the king was sitting on his throne. He was very fat, and he was surrounded by his servants, 6 guards below, 3 on each side of the red carpet, and 4 magicians on top, 2 on each side of his throne. The king looked something like Santa Claus, because he had a thick beard with a mustache. He had more hair on his face than on his head. He was bald, and wore a crown on his head. He looked quite kind. And the hero thought only about the fact that this king, he still looks like a dumpling. For many years, it was clear that this king was disgusting to the hero like the last 10 years and now. But there is no choice. It is said that in his youth the king was a brave warrior who had been in many battles, but somehow turned into a dumpling with a crown. No matter how funny it sounds, but it is, and most likely his battles are a myth. The hero noticed for himself that there were a lot of irritating faces, a gray-haired mush china with a big mustache and a frowning face, a black mustached man without hair on his head, and a girl with a blue dress and a fan. And that's not all. The guard told the hero that he was standing in front of His Majesty the King, and the hero himself looked at the guard as if he were a fool, although it was logical that he would say this, because he did not know that the hero had already experienced all these moments. He recalls that during the first playthrough, he greeted the king very politely, although no one appreciated it, because he behaved inappropriately for a hero. Even in relation to the king, he must remain proud. He wondered that maybe because he already knew what would happen in the future, he didn't feel the need to put himself in a good light in front of this dumpling, so he wanted to take a serious step. He knew that the king would still be killed soon, and over him, roughly speaking, already weighs death with a scythe, which is just supposedly waiting for his death, so the king has no value, and it doesn't matter how to greet him. The professor in his watch told him to behave modestly, that it would become a deep and endless sea, as he wanted. She was ready to do anything to make him a good hero, at least by their standards. He was angry, but he said well, albeit reluctantly, because if it weren't for the observer and this whole organization, he would have gone through all this much easier and faster, because he knows where someone can be manipulated. Today on the agenda is modesty. A person's thoughts that by becoming a sea, he will flood everything around entirely, without a chance to be saved, or to save the infrastructure of the city, and without batting an eyelid, without regretting it. My name is Kong Hansu. Thank you for the rainbow welcome, Your Majesty, said our hero. At this meeting with the king, he decided to show himself with honor, like a real hero. All the people who were there were amazed that his movements matched his manners, and they thought that he was just an ill-mannered savage. He had better manners than the son of one of these people. It's all thanks to 10 years spent in the fantasy world. He didn't do it because he likes it. During this time, he just had to learn all the etiquette and culture of this world. The king was incredibly pleased with the manners of the hero, because he, like everyone else, did not know what to expect from an alien whose world is fundamentally different from theirs, and his behavior was amazing. He told Lanuble that she did a good job. Because he probably thought that she taught him this, he replied that it was a great honor for her, and she was grateful for the praise from His Majesty. The king pointed to the hero with his hand on which there were 2 rings, and asked if he saw his abilities. This was necessary to make sure that he was really a hero, and able to defeat the evil devil. The hero understood what it meant that the king wanted to confirm his status. He saw that so far there was nothing new. Everything was developing in the same way as during the first passage, but it was obvious, because only his memories had changed and a professor appeared. He reasoned that if everything is repeated, then there will be no change in skills. Plus, with increasing skill, the rank of the skill will increase, and its effectiveness will also increase. Translator A. During the first playthrough, this skill was also given as the main. However, there are still changes that he could not have expected. It was courage and the murder of the F class. Raniabel noticed that he was excited, and she wondered what had happened until she saw. The hero immediately tried to find a logical explanation of where these skills came from, and he did find it. This is the effect of the test of courage, conducted by Alex. Whether it was good or bad that he received these skills is not yet clear. He sighed and smiled, thinking that now the second time he could develop faster than the first, because he knows how to do it, and gain strength so that he can defeat not only the devil, but also this organization. And he was a little angry that from the level to the skills, absolutely everything was cleaned up. All his 10 years of farming, if you think about it, were in vain. There were only memories of how to restore it all, and this was a good bonus. He did answer the king that he sees everything, and said that his specialization is a level 1 hero. The king decided to ask what special talent the hero has, because it could help in the battle against the devil, and the king is very curious. The hero replied with a straight face that his special talent is a 500% bonus to experience, that is, all the experience gained was multiplied by 5. This is really a very good ability that speeds up his farming many times, and saves him time. The king was not only shocked by this ability, but simply amazed. He could not utter a word, because 500% is an incredible amount. He could not believe what he heard and froze in shock from this fact. But this is a hero. What else should be expected? All the people on the sides also began to whisper, because they were amazed at his answer, and he thought that last time, and this rather violent reaction, it was really impossible to do without it, he thought. Yet they should have understood that he had good abilities. And this bonus meant that regardless of talents, he would develop 5 times faster than others. This is one of the best abilities you can imagine, because the speed of development is very important in order to grow from an insignificant hero to someone who kills a demon in 10 years. This skill is simply necessary. He made different comparisons. If you repeat any action for 1 hour, it will be equivalent to 5 hours. For example, in the same cutting of firewood, that is, instead of 50 years. He spent only 10 years pumping, and this greatly simplifies everything. He proudly raised his nose, thinking that this is a special talent of the legendary hero, and he is proud of this talent, although it was presented by the gods, as the one who should defeat the king of all demons, the devil, but he still considered it his own, because it was he who used it. Raniabel was shocked by this, and ran around the hero like a dog, talked about the fact that the 500% experience bonus is so impressive, called him an honorable hero, and he looked like it was empty and denied. But she insisted that she was not flattering him, and it was true. The king called out to the hero. The hero stood pretending to be cool. Open one eye. He thought about how he would quickly develop and get rid of surveillance in the form of a professor, because she greatly changed his plans and spoiled everything. So he urgently needed to do something about it. The king told the hero that in their country, located near the lands of the devil, there was a crisis, and that the hero must strike the demons, increasing his abilities, and so gradually developing to reach the level when he can defeat the king of all demons, the devil. The whole country was incredibly afraid of the devil Pedinar. For them, he was an evil god who wanted to kill everyone and seize territories, and they were unable to resist him. So they had no choice but to summon a great legendary hero who would help to cope with all disasters. Our hero understood that this time he needed to be more cunning, and knew what and where to do. So he said that he did not want to do what he was, and asked how much he would be paid for it. Also, our hero knew that although the king blames the demons for all the problems of the kingdom, but it's not about them. All the problems of the country are different, and there is nothing to put all the blame on the demon lord. You just need to look at what is happening around. Useless dumpling king. The hero thought in his head. Because the crisis was also connected with how the king rules, he realized that he needed to calm down. And first of all, modesty. He imagined that now he was a deep sea. He needed to calm down and behave with dignity to the hero, because he was still being watched by a professor who would not let him behave badly. Therefore, like a real hero, he politely said, "Your Majesty, what kind of support will you give me?" His goal was to be a real hero in the eyes of others, but this did not mean that he should just go fight. He was still trying to get some benefit, at least for the speed of pumping. The king was very angry when he heard this, and asked again, "Support?" He looked at the hero as if he said something wrong, then he would immediately be executed on the spot, without trial, despite the fact that he was the only one who could defeat their sworn enemy, against whom they had no chance. He began to shout furiously that he had summoned a hero in order to save humanity, and in his opinion this is the highest support. According to him, it was clear that either he had nothing to help or he did not want to help him, thinking that the hero should cope with everything alone. From the words that he can still do, the hero's bowl of water was overflowing, and he is drifting on the waves in his soul, who was trying to calm down, got into a storm that knocked him off a piece of wood, and he fell into the ocean, into the abyss of anger. His balance was disturbed, and now there will be true rage. And he made a face that could not be seen on his face before. It was anger, rage, sadness, despondency, grief, sorrow, and all at once. And he instantly said emphatically that he refused, and let them look for another hero. And he was not going to defeat the demon king, the devil Pedinar, without support from the king. No one expected these words. The king was just furious with this. He was overwhelmed with anger. He thought to kill the young man who dared to refuse the king himself. The people around him understood that this was not good, and were afraid of the king's further actions. Raniabel was also shocked by his words, and held her breath in fear. He said, "A crisis of the state? It's none of my business." He humiliated the king at the moment. No one knew what would happen next, but the hero didn't care anymore. His cup was overflowing, and he could no longer pull off his comments about anything that didn't suit him, whether it wasn't enough effort on the part of the king or the king himself. Therefore, he began to say that the king does not know at all how to treat the hero, that he needs to beg the hero on his knees, and not give orders, because another king is easy to find. It is easy to replace him, and there is only one hero, and there is no second such thing in the whole world, and the devil is already coming, so the hero was more important than the king. The hero told the king to listen to Sayazd, and called him the dumpling king. This insult hurt the king very much, because according to legend, this is his mental trauma, the fact that he used to be a great warrior, and now he has become so due to the fact that his life was battered. But most likely all this was nothing more than empty rumors. The hero continued that he was not even a citizen of this state, and should not obey them. especially since they took him away without his millet. The king was already furious. It was not clear what his next step would be, whether he would dare to kill their hero, or still endure his ranting and fall to his knees. People, the king's servants began to rebel, and did not understand what right he had to talk to the king like that. He wanted to approach him and cut into him for such words, because it is incomprehensible for someone to say such a thing to the king. Anyone would already have a head off their shoulders. But this is a hero, so there is a unique case, and the king is powerless. The one who talked a lot flew a pen right into his forehead, breaking through him a little. This man did not even understand what had happened. He did not have enough reaction to notice how a pen was thrown at him, so even after hitting him, he did not notice it for a couple of seconds. Further evolving on the hero whom they accused of boorish appeal to the king. Naturally, those who let the pen like a dagger were a hero. Nothing held him back, and he was even ready to kill. Raniabel was shocked that he began to behave like this, but she could not do anything. But she asked him not to do any antics in front of the king, because no one knows what the consequences of such actions will be, and the hero did not think about all this, but thought that his throw was no longer the same as before. But if he had concentrated, he would have hit right in the eye of that person. He didn't really care about what could happen to him, whether he would be left without an eye or die. These people were fed up with him, like this whole world with its rules. Therefore, he was doing complete nonsense. The guards immediately sent their weapons to the hero, since he was already a potential threat to the king and all the people there, and as guards, their duty was to protect all these people, and first of all the main person in the whole state, the king, who ruled them like the whole state. But the hero said that if I could, then let them try to kill him. He played on the fact that they could not kill him since he was a hero. He thought what he should do next, because he had to sort everything out and get the most profitable result from this whole situation created by him during anger. The guards, despite their duty, were frightened of him, calling him abnormal, and retreated. It was a pitiful sight. They ran away like lambs from a hero who had not even developed yet, and so he could not give almost any rebuff. You can give an example of a fight with the commander-in-chief of the army, who could kill him with one blow, and a couple of guards would somehow cope, and then he decided to say directly why he was so self-confident, so that they would understand that they had no choice but to obey him. He began to say that if the king was killed, then the prince would come. In his place, there would be no prince, then the princess would take his place. The guards tried to stop him with their spears, but they themselves understood that they could not kill him. He goes on, and comes close to the leg of the guard. What will happen now? No one except the hero himself understood what he was doing, why he came so close to the guard unarmed, and the guard himself was with a spear that can kill a person 2 times. Even a hero who has not yet been pumped it will kill with ease. But it didn't matter. He went to the blade of the guard's spear, and it was already resting against his neck. But he was still as cold-blooded as possible. If he made one wrong forward movement, he would be dead, but he knew that he would definitely not be killed. So he approached, and began to continue his cool, as it seemed to him, speech, he said, but after which there was a short pause for intrigue, and he shouted, "If you kill a hero, then who will replace him?" He was 100% sure that after these words no one would touch him with a finger, no matter how evil they were, because he was their only salvation, and no one else would help them anymore. So he was more valuable than any wealth, resources. His life was even more valuable than the life of the king of this state himself, he continued. Who's going to deal with the demon king then? The king was incredibly angry, and did not know what to do next, what to say to him, what to do. He was at a disadvantage. On one side of the scales was his pride and honor, and on the other his life, and the lives of the people of the whole state, and maybe all of humanity, and only on him now depended the fate of all this. The hero pondered the words of the gods. Do you say modesty? For these barbarians, it means nothing. If you just leave it like that, These pigs will continue to use me for their own purposes, despite my desires and values. They will do everything that is necessary only for them, without taking into account the opinion of anyone, and I cannot allow this in no case. I will do everything in my own way." He went on to wonder if it wasn't the same as dragging a dog into a hunting ground and unleashing it without a single command. Do you think this is the best support? He was incredibly angry with everyone in this state, and last time he endured all the bullying of him, not realizing his true value to all these people, and what they are willing to do for his help. Yes, compared to them, even the demon lord seems to be a conscientious gentleman. He never left the hero empty-handed, even though because of the demon lord he was called into this world, and if it were not for him, the hero would have quietly continued to live in his world as an otaku, but then he would not have realized a lot of important things, and of course he would not have visited the fantasy world. So, back to the Demon King. Every time the hero defeated his subordinates, he gave him a reward, in the form of a variety of things, money. Sometimes there was so much loot that the hero was already embarrassed, although it was all nonsense, and the hero himself took the equipment of his warriors. But even this seemed to him better than all this rotten state, with a rotten government. But even if you count, what should the hero eat? He was shocked by the sums that came out when counting, because even the hero's food was incredibly expensive, also with bad partners, and without help from the state for which he is here, and is trying to defeat the strongest creature in this world that threatens this whole world. But they do not put the hero in anything, no matter how important he is. The hero continued, "What is there? These idiots will not be able to kill me. And if someone dares, I don't care what happens to this world, even." Though it all sounded selfish on the part of the hero, but he was absolutely right. They are to blame for this situation, and they don't even want to provide anything to the hero to facilitate him in becoming the strongest. It's really disrespectful to him and his efforts. But he also understood that if he died on these lands, then he had no guarantee that he would be resurrected. But at the same time, one thing was strange, where the professor had to make sure that all this did not happen, otherwise he would no longer become a good hero, as the organization wanted that resurrected him, because of his views on the concept of a legendary hero. And then he begins to mock the king, realizing that he has absolutely no way out, will kill him, preserve his pride, and his whole state will fall, and no one will survive, or lose pride and bow his head to the hero, his strength, desire, and determination to save their state, although they took him out of his world and life, so that they can at least repay the hero a little. They must do it. The king was just furious. His veins came out on his hands. From the force with which he squeezed his chair, he said, "Hero, you were called here to protect our state." All people trembled in fear from waiting for the continuation of what he would say now. Everything depended on his actions, and everyone understood this. The main thing is that emotions do not get the better of him. After all, it can spoil everything, and the devil will win. The king continued to say, "I order the entire aristocracy and the merchants to buy magical catalysts, and Landule to summon the hero to our lands." Lenouvel herself was incredibly afraid that because of emotions, the king could do something that should not be done under any circumstances, and it would be fatal for everyone. And of course the hero himself does not care, but I still don't really want to lose my life. Even though he seemed so self-confident, he continued to pretend to be unrealistically confident, and simply asked, "And?" But the hero understood that if the professor did not interfere with him, then perhaps the forces of this organization did not work there, or it could not influence directly, or he did everything within the framework of the concepts of the word hero. And it is quite normal to demand support. In general, it is so. But the hero must be strong and not ask for anything, and do everything yourself. The evil king continued to scream in a rage, and said that he was the property of their kingdom. It looked just like in a scary movie. The king believed that since he called the hero should help them. But he was wrong, because the hero is not a weapon, but first of all a person. If for the first time everything was as the king wants, then the second time the hero let the king know. He began to give the king an example that after catching a fish, an angler can call it his prey, but he is not a fish, he is a hero. Did he approve the property of the kingdom? It's ridiculous. They don't have any power over the hero. They can't kill him. They can't throw him into prison because he can refuse to help them. They can't do anything to him. And everyone should understand this, and they will obey him. Because now he is in charge here, he began to talk about the fact that maybe it is worth officially declaring this to the whole world. Then what will become of your precious kingdom? Even though he looked like a tyrant trying to blackmail the king and the whole kingdom. But he had every right to do so, because they snatched him from life, and will not bring him back until he defeats the demon king. This is literally coercion, but he must have his rights, like all people. The king was incredibly angry, but he didn't know what to say to what the hero said. The woman standing next to him was also shocked, as were the two princes who were the king's heirs, and were supposed to take the throne after his death, and the teachers were also shocked and waited for the continuation. Even the one who had a pen in his forehead, the atmosphere was very tense, and the hero raises his hand up, intending to make some kind of speech, and he begins to talk about the fact that he will go to the country that will honor him as a hero. Do what you want, even catch it, even lock it up. It's useless. I won't lift a finger, he said with his hand held high. He was serious and knew his worth. He bargained with the whole kingdom. Raniabel already thought that she would be executed for summoning such a crazy hero who is ready to sacrifice his life and kingdom.